Thanks so much for joining us here on ANF Plus. We're following several stories this afternoon, but one of the top stories that we're following right now, new developments in the search for a missing Lake Oconee boater. Well, the search efforts have now been partially suspended until further notice. So obviously that's a major development in this story that we continue to follow here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. There's been a search ongoing for missing Atlanta teacher Gary Jones. But again, deputies have said that the search has now been partially suspended. Search efforts involving dogs and divers have been halted, but DNR officers and Putnam County Sheriff's deputies are going to maintain daily shoreline searches. If the weather conditions do improve, search dogs are going to be used again in the near future, according to the Putnam County Sheriff. The search for Jones entered its 22nd day today. Investigators say that he was with his fiancee, Jocelyn Wilson, on February 8th when they both vanished on the water. Wilson's body has since been recovered. On Thursday, the sheriff told Atlanta News First that search crews have now zeroed in on a 2 to 3 acre area, I should say, on the lake where cadaver dogs have indicated there may possibly be a body under the water. Just 3 days later, here we are, search efforts partially being suspended now. Crews have said that they've used aircraft, underwater technology devices, professional divers in their efforts as well. The sheriff saying, quote, "I cannot remember such an extensive use of government and civilian personnel and resources for an incident such as this on Lake Oconee and Sinclair in the last 40 years. But we're going to keep following the latest developments on this story here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus, and we'll keep you up to date with all the latest. We've also been following a series of fires that have happened over the weekend. Firefighters worked overnight to put out a house fire in DeKalb County, as there were 5 different fires in just a 24-hour period. So very, very busy time for fire crews. Sparked by dry temperatures and high winds, along with the fact that we haven't had a lot of recent rain, we've been seeing these fires. The most recent fire broke out at a home on Belvedere Park on Harvest Lane. Luckily, DeKalb County firefighters were able to put that one out fairly quickly. And after their crews were called over around 3 a.m., that's when they sprang into action, extinguishing a fire on the back deck along the interior of the home. Firefighters say the residents were able to evacuate along with their pets, thankfully, as they were initially woken up by smoke alarms. Let's listen.
It is a challenge for us as firefighters, again, running into these wind-driven fires. So we try to do the best we can to bring them under control.
Yeah, and so in Fulton County, it was actually a similar story on Saturday. Gusty winds fueled fires on Covington Highway, Memorial Drive, and in South Fulton, where one person died after a camper caught fire on Coweta Road. All this happened while Metro Atlanta was under a red flag warning. The good news, that warning's now over. We did not see a lot of wind today, so certainly that is a relief for so many people. Okay, let's turn to this story. This really is troubling for parents. A toddler was hospitalized after ingesting THC at an Ackworth daycare. Atlanta News First reporter Chelsea Bineforth spoke with her parents, who are just glad that their daughter is recovering, but they say this was shocking and it's unacceptable. And now they're warning other parents to do their research on child care facilities all across the state.
It was very scary.
Jeffrey and Quenisha Hawkins say it was one of the worst days of their lives, watching their toddler suffer from the side effects of THC, one of the main chemicals found in marijuana.
She was basically intoxicated.
We're looking at a baby who really cannot move.
According to Ackworth police, the 20-month-old child ingested the substance at the Laugh and Learn Early Learning Center on Cobb Parkway. An arrest warrant says video footage shows the child eating something that fell out of a daycare worker's pocket. About 45 minutes later, the child begins showing signs of intoxication. This week, Ackworth police identified that worker as 24-year-old Zyrania Fuchsia. She's charged with reckless conduct and cruelty to children. In a statement, the daycare's regional director confirmed Fuchsia has been fired and said in part the actions of this individual do not reflect our organization's values, standards of care, or commitment to child safety. But Ackworth police say this is not the first time they've been called to the Laugh and Learn daycare.
We've been out to this location in the past for other unrelated incidents
Records from the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning reveal another staff member was also charged with battery and cruelty to children last February after allegedly pushing a 2-year-old down onto a cot as a form of discipline. And in December of 2023, another daycare worker was accused of pulling so hard on a child's arm they needed medical attention.
Make sure that you actually research the daycare that you are putting your children in.
But the good thing is our daughter is alive and she is recovering.
Chelsea Beimfor, Atlanta News First.
And this weekend, a family is grieving after their loved one was killed crossing the street at what used to be a crosswalk. Atlanta News First reporter Patrick Quinn spoke with the family who now wants the city to prioritize walking over driving.
He had the biggest heart for everyone. He would help a stranger on the street.
It was on the street, this street, where Pooja Jabor's dad, Pradeep Sood, lost his life. Surveillance video shows Sood on February 11th at roughly 1 in the afternoon walking into traffic. We won't show it, but a black truck crashed into him. Sood, at 67 years old, died.
I can't explain the hole this has left in our hearts.
A police report showed Sood was at fault. Why? Because while the faded paint is on the ground, this is not an actual crosswalk. Confusion that cost a life. We went to Google Maps. This was an official crosswalk recently. In February 2022, as part of a program called the Peachtree Shared Space Project, the city installed planters and added a crosswalk here. But fast forward a year, the city de-installed that project. The planters were removed, but the crosswalk lines stayed. Back to the surveillance video, seconds before Sood died, we counted 3 others walking through traffic. Pooja said her dad, who worked across the street for 20 years, crossed here almost daily. And even today, you can still see the white paint.
I mean, here's someone right here crossing.
During our interview, more people walked right into traffic, right where Pradeep was killed.
It's going to happen again, whether someone is injured or killed. The city has to step up and do something.
City Council member Amir Faroqi in a statement told me this death was, quote, preventable, and said the former crosswalk, quote, reflects a failure in infrastructure design. I pressed Atlanta's Department of Transportation what they're doing about this. In a statement, they said they were saddened by the death, adding, quote, this only intensifies our department's commitment to the Vision Zero goal of 0 fatalities due to vehicle-related crashes within the city of Atlanta. For Pooja, the fix is obvious. Meet and protect the people where they're at.
The city needs to take responsibility and make it a designated crosswalk.
Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
And now to an A&F investigation. Consumer investigator Better Call Harry is helping you prove that you actually paid for your parking spot and that you still have plenty of time left. Harry got a complaint from a viewer who received a citation and another complaint from someone who got booted. Here's Harry's report.
I still prefer private parking, where you get a ticket and you pay at a kiosk or the gate before you leave. Now you have to download an app, enter a zone and your license plate, and by that time, the first 20 minutes have passed and it's no longer free. I do not like providing personal information to any of the parking apps or websites, but that's where we are.
Here's a good example. It's a Buckhead parking deck that recently ditched the ticket and the gate for a QR code. Hope you're not in a rush. After you find your space, pull out your phone, scan the QR code on the wall, enter your credit card and your license plate, and start the clock. This deck does not require a parking app, but others do. So you may have to download Park Mobile or ParkWiz or Spot Hero. The apps themselves are good, but what if someone else makes the mistake? A viewer writes, arrived at 10:30 and paid for parking. Start time 10:30, end time 2:30. Certified officer wrote a ticket at 10:49. Okay, here's one way to prove your case. It adds a step, but it's so simple. Before you do anything, turn on your phone's screen record option. Apple gives you a little countdown, and now you are recording the entire transaction on your phone. By the way, you can screen record with an Android. Look at this. My phone is recording me taking video of the QR code and the entire transaction at the parking website. How can they say I didn't pay if I have a recording of the payment? And when it's time to leave, I take a picture of my car to prove I have time left. Did you know your photos are time-stamped? Look, it's not a sure thing, but it helps.
Because there's no sign.
About a year ago, a couple contacted Atlanta News First Investigates because they got booted at a lot near State Farm Arena, even though their time had not expired. They needed our help to get the charges reversed, but we couldn't have done it without the video they recorded as proof.
I know it seems crazy, but I'm just saying, if you have to go through the hassle of scanning a QR code or downloading an app, take an extra 2 seconds to screen record the transactions or just take a screenshot. The same thing goes when you park in the city of Atlanta, because there's about a 97% chance that you will have to pay that citation no matter what. I'm Better Call Harry. Atlanta News First investigates.
And more on that and all of our top stories on AtlantaNewsFirst.com and our free mobile news app. Now back to Local News Live.